the endless number of ships that are going down, put in front of Commander Jack and lay down. The view out of his window of small scout spacecraft, his eyes scanning the area, a trash dump amid the expanse of space. There is something strange about the mining settlement that has been lost for a long time. 37 times as many as the Twisted Metal Hall's outpost. Broken solar panels and empty space. Pieces of ships that used to sail with pride. Was currently floating in space on Earth without any problems. 5 years ago, someone left this place. They left when the mines were empty. Moving would cost a lot of money. Remnants of ships, buildings that held machinery and other structures. At this point, enemies are trying to get in touch with people. For the first time, a safe place for these leftover things to go. What would you do if this was their only choice? The commander gave Lieutenant Tom of the Army the task. In a little while, Miller will be next to Jack. It doesn't seem to matter, Jack. Did not answer right away. Instead, he was not receptive. Being worked on at the recycling factory right now. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm thinking about the future. Jack, could you just do the math for me again? Tom eventually answered after a long time of looking at his. A tablet of bad quality, Your Honor, Stellar. The U.S. military has 10 times as many weapons as the ship's speed, power, and with very strong weaponry. They have wiped out our big shipyards for the Earth Defense Navy. Right now, he only has 37 ships that can fight. Everyone knows that we're in a tough place, sir. Jack's gaze not being at the window, because of the serious look on his face. We made a choice after the game changed. The scouts' area of control was very small. They set up their coordinating center there. Jack called for the best. Engineers use ideas as weapons. Tactical operations commanders and professionals in the field always had a good attitude. The most important thing was, Anna Reed, a senior engineer, is a woman with gray hair. Woman having sharp eyesight could see anything that was able to fix any harm. When she first saw Jack, she exclaimed, irrational, that he wanted to make a warship out of this wreckage. It would be amazing if it could fly, let alone battle. Then we'll do something amazing, Jack remarked. Just because we aren't stuck in the regular. Return to the waste field. A couple of these miners, likely modifications to lasers used by the military, with enough overall material to construct a big building, but what about energy needs in particular? 3 of the damaged reactor cores. The old ways, Jack said, to defend yourself. To a mess of trash over there. 3 different sorts inside the realm. Varied technological ages, Anna. Worked on systems that didn't operate together unless we make. Jack was adamant that they should work together. Operate together like their makers want them to. Wondering why Anna's appearance changed over time. Altered when new opportunities came up in her. It would look like a mess of intertwined things. Most of the time, Jack the monster grinned. Once a week, but it would mean The next day, Jack met the beast. The whole team of 200 people came together in as a lot of you know, the cargo holds of scout ships. He started the coalition with us. That they have won us over and are better. Ships with greater technology and took us to our last round of defense. He stopped all around the world, his eyes set on, looked at the people that were excited, likely worn out after months of pulling out and causing the coalition to fall apart. Labels people rats behind our backs. Jack says they take it as an insult. Mice are nevertheless robust, flexible, and do well even when things are hard, and being rats is our biggest strength right now. He pulled the button on the projector that made holograms, showcasing Anna's first drawing. Made without warning, it appeared weird. Not smooth, with sections that stand out coming from put-together boats that have been taken apart in this. We are going to develop this Phoenix. She started from this junkyard. Will be lethal, but not very appealing. She will take advantage of the coalition's benefits. Against them, their strong beliefs, their typical strategies used in war. Stability. The Phoenix will look completely new to them, since who among us would have the guts to develop people don't want to be around people that act like this. Low, with their back to the wall. As Jack spoke, the gathering reverberated with noise. Could sense skepticism in a lot of faces. They were told to put money on this idea. A spaceship composed of, "That's not true, sir." A young technician raised his hand. What would happen next if we could create this? We can promise that the team won't be there. Enough qualified persons to do our work for us. Jack answered in the same way. Everyone in? Right now, in this room, we are not just a reconnaissance mission anymore. We are, as shipbuilders, innovators, and the original crew of the Phoenix, who were the heart of the operation. The next day, miniature spaceships. Steps taken to evaluate and claim of the trash that Anna likes the most. Set up a temporary control room. Overseeing the huge salvage operation of the small scout vessels, the flow of production never stopped. Putting together different pieces. Development came to a halt because of systems that didn't work together. At initially, accidents and injuries that 2 planes were linked to a spill of radioactive material. A section of a piece wounded some of the personnel. Some of the hull plating broke off during restoration caused some parts of the hull plating to come apart. But other problems arose. Came up with each barrier. Temporary fixes that don't work. Been written down in an engineering book. Before the first month was over, the Phoenix's frame made it, floating in the air like a promise made of bones. Erected on top of the bridge span that hasn't changed. They used to work for a mining command ship, in a way that looks like an anthill surrounding it. Turning extra materials into... Jack sometimes found something new, watching the structure from a few points of view at the same time as Tom. If the coalition joined him, he would have laughed at them. Tom stated they looked at our building. Jack's best solution was, let them laugh. A weapon your enemy doesn't know about. Be aware of what's going on until it's over. The news of their endeavor came out in the second month, spread to the other folks. The leadership of the First Fleet forces was skeptical, if not just plain mad, over Jack's. Gave money to a project that didn't have a track record. Idea, but when you're really tired of getting to what seems impossible, attempting to send us more workers, while looking over the daily work of 50 engineers. Experts are supposed to come next week, and we have been told that we are... Task Phoenix, Anna got up from her tablet, and her expression showed how fatigued she was. We are not insane anymore because they all agreed. Jack laughed and said, oh, we're still crazy. Soon recognized that our last journey together might be a little crazy, hoping that as the project went on, an unforeseen event forced the crew to believe in what began as a people's gambling was starting to show. Daily creativity and determination. A more obvious and actual Phoenix came along, and along with it, their will to show that people would fight back. Anna made a promise 6 months before the end of the world. Jack and they stood looking at each other one night. Could you give me 6 of the ships that are just partially built? Months, and I will give you a ship that would make the coalition very sorry they ever chose to. Jack nodded his head to demonstrate that he agreed. Crazy about the Phoenix because they didn't have the money. Trash and dreams they were making. Last best-case scenario for humanity, and in some way, he was sure it would happen, no matter what. Almost no one noticed that 6 months had passed. Endless work in the junkyard near Outpost. 37 had changed how things looked. Only particles in the air at that time. That hundreds of individuals worked hard on. Teams running around in their spacesuits like bugs taking on the shape of the... Anna Reed, an engineer with Phoenix, stood in what should become her main engine room. Tablet that shows all of her daily activities at once. The gray hair that used to be tidy now looked chaotic, and eerie shapes had gathered under her. Migraines were caused by not getting enough sleep, although a desire, determination, and excitement made people around her cry on the 3rd. Sam, the young reactor, said it's online, and Anna's favorite engineer is always at... Anna nodded down her 60% of the time. Tablet that is better than we thought it would be. Think about what kind of nodes are linking. The welds are tight, thus there are no leaks. Power changes had already gone beyond. In my opinion, most engineers think it's possible. 3 different reactors had been used. Pieces, each made for a distinct objective, using a variety of technological approaches, and made them into one thing. Device that shows the output of the first reactor. In the middle, which made the energy before giving it to the next. So degrees of power that went far above what was needed at first. More than what Commander Thompson, who was doing 2 jobs, is asking for. Sam said he was gazing at his... The person he is bringing is the communicator, is to keep an eye on our development and set aside additional. Guests required more time to ask questions and not as much time spent working, but Jack was fantastic. Have to get them money if she wanted to. 30 minutes wasn't too bad at all. In the end, Jack and 3 officers showed up. Anna accepted on board the fleet. Captain Wilson, a lady with a stern face who, from the start, has been against Project Phoenix. Jack says this is the engine room. They swung across the road with an air of superiority. Reed, the main entry hatch engineer, made an incredibly impressive piece of work. Anna nodded to show that she knew who the visitors were. Have their tricore reactor up and running. every aspect of the system that is important, increasing the current output. Levels of power, 240% higher than average. While Admiral Wilson pinched his brow in thought. Rose isn't perfect, but is it? Constant and maybe even more steady than it should be. We learned that Anna was right when she said that. The radiation profile of the second center controls the third. Nothing that the original designers had in mind. Might be able to find that these systems were never supposed to operate together. Demonstrate. Jack then offered the weapon systems. That's when things really start to happen. An unusual place to store weapons. Long and with, tucked away in a mine, ship. Anna owns it right now. Thought to be the best in her field. She explained mining lasers like she always does. Offered to guests in an effort to avoid rock and asteroid, we've modified them so that using concentrating crystals to get closer. Taken off of old communication networks by turning on a screen that shows the test. The results demonstrate a very high level of beam coherence. It runs straight through our models. Normal coalition defenses such as these don't exist. How can anyone think about it? One of the cops asked the shield. Technology is many years ahead of where we are now. Since we aren't employing good materials, guns, and talked on what their shields were meant to do, which take away energy signatures utilized by the military. Mining with hybrid lasers makes a spectrum of frequencies that is completely distinct. Only aware of the risk when Admiral Wilson, this is the worst time now, looked over the weapons bay to get ready for the test, paying meticulous attention to every detail, and when she finally spoke, Jack smiled. The most exciting part is showing it to Anna. Took the group to a high location where they could see workers might be attaching. We're employing outer bolt plates, a combination of different metals, even though it is estimated during the whole time of aggressive targeting. Scan all the materials made. Incorrect readings and echoes. Computer targets can't get a steady. Anna might lock herself in during the journey. Observe how the Admiral's face changes. Going from doubt to cautious hope, no one could argue that Phoenix was ugly, where it had a combination of things that didn't always match. Pieces that didn't fit together, its contour was not shaped right and has weird bumps, where a number of methods have been, even while that ugliness was a beautiful but terrible kind of beauty. Staying alive by being smart. Thereafter, when the visitors left, Jack, going to see Anna at her temporary job, the Admiral's full support has been approved. He told her that the Phoenix was coming. Everything we asked for. Extra priorities for staff that work on salvation. Claims, even those for specific parts that were made. After Earth's, Anna stopped working to look up from the industries on Earth, letting a little smile fall from her lips so at last, people are beginning to trust us. Jack answered by sitting across from him. More important to her. The team is sure. Have you seen their... Instead of calling the ship an urgent final chance, you should call it. Anna had only seen the Phoenix once, turned into something far bigger than a project. Take on a symbolic role in the dining hall. Crew members who weren't official told stories of the strange things about the ship. A few had begun to paint a sign of a phoenix on. They had something under their spacesuits, a bunch of lucky charms being attached to the stations that work as bridges. Wait 2 weeks for our first system test. Anna observed that the main engines of life, support and defense mechanisms must use their guns only when they need to. Jack nodded. It needed another week, his face conveying both excitement and worry. Then we'll make a choice about the plausible ship can really fly today. Arrived to the first power-up step. In the middle of doubt and hope that the crew, which currently has more than 300 members, arrived at. There are many locations around Phoenix. The command chair was aboard the length that has been built with 3 separate components of vessels or police personnel kept an eye on him from all sides, made up of a number of worn-out parts. Commander, all departments are ready. Tom Miller, lawyer. From his office at Tactical Jack, lawyer Tom Miller spoke. Take a deep breath and hit power up. The 3 reactors were spread out all across the ship, went live in a deliberate order of power. Crossed a quickly built ways to light up structures that had a long bad time before, made Anna's singing better, and gave her new life. Leaving engineering to take charge. To keep the reactor in sync, it needs to be maintained, keeping power steady at 40% and increasing on the screens and control panels on the bridge. Came to life with the ship's hum. More powerful systems felt a tremor that may be seen through the decks. It was said that all systems were at 50%, 60%, and 100%. Normative Jack sank deeper into his chair. Getting to full strength was a stressful period. This was when the power levels began to rise. When it was all said and done, would the Phoenix? Would the Phoenix last or be in a state of desperation? Bet and lose cash. 3/4, 85%. The bridge lights got 90% brighter. With the engine noise getting louder, strong vibration reverberating everywhere. The ship's full power, Anna, said that her voice had broken with feeling every system working inside. Obligations she is putting on, Commander. Phoenix burst into joyful celebration. When they ring out over the ship, rooms and hallways that were 4 months before that, there was no one living in the space on the... Jack smiled at himself on the bridge. Start the engine tests that he had already given the go-ahead for. The fun faded away. Now we may check to see if the ship that can't be understood can sail by. Carefully firing maneuvering thrusters. Beginning cautiously with the Phoenix started the moves on its own. Strength from things that are falling apart and are no longer needed. Visions they had created a whole new, something that could change the battle's path in the 2 weeks that followed. The Phoenix's power-up test went well. The weapon systems were working and ready to go. All of the engines were working nicely, and after a lot of practice runs, the crew were now at their best. They had to see their strange spacecraft. Could maybe face Commander Jack. Thompson was sitting on the brink of the bridge. Looking at the main screen, the stars shine brightly against the night sky, giving Space Station 37 a lot of time to catch up. As they were patrolling the perimeter around the performance of the old mining industry, Jack sat down and took charge of the report. Even though everyone went through, Lieutenant Tom Miller thought it was shows that everything is working inside the system. Mr. Shields, you're doing great work. Weapons that are hidden but strong. Lisa Brown, an expert in public relations, moved. Her station didn't make any documented transmissions in. It looks like the area commander. Jack nodded a little, but questioned Coalition Scouts' claims. Nearby locations had ships. In the end, one was unavoidable. Bravely entered their territory, and he said the yellow alert level and then moved on. Working in silence was a big win for the Phoenix, from their power systems running more quietly and their own special layout. Utilizing sensor suites, they were on the brink of not able to be found using normal detection methods. They might wait quietly in the dark. 3 days before it was their turn, Tom yelled during a meeting later on. Eager with unexpected alertness, Coalition, falling from the sky at a speed of light. Coordinating transportation. The full 227. On A4, Jack stood up straight while he was in charge. The viewing screen moved on the screen chair, illustrating how a sleek silver ship looks in, a eerie blast of cyan light, and hull, beautiful and modern without any of the incomplete patchwork that made up the Phoenix was a scout ship for the Coalition, small compared to their major battle cruisers. But they are still a strong competition. Tom running consistent sweep patterns. They never mentioned they saw us anywhere. Jack quickly thought of all their choices. Finally, the test they had been studying for. Still, he had to be careful just in case if the Coalition ship sinks or the Phoenix fails. Tell everyone that they would don't worry about the surprise that might. Fight for the well-being of all people. He gently set up all the stations. Weapon systems choose the best way to intercept, putting us in the shadow of their sensor until the very last minute. While the ship's crew steered, Anna, who is bad at engineering, checked that the electrical systems are ready to transmit too much energy to weapons or helps to protect the weaponry bay. Soldiers got ready for the change mining. Light beams during their first fight practice. The finish line is still 12,000 kilometers away. Tom said that in a perfect world he would be within. Jack watched the firing range for more than 3 minutes. The screen, the enemy ship. The Coalition team didn't know what was going to hit them soon. They thought that this area had been left alone, to end up with only broken things and mining waste. Places where they could get better at. Wow, they were so wrong. Only 2 minutes before peak performance. On the bridge, which had no one else on it, the gentle sound of Jack's instruments felt the pounding of his heart inside his center. Nonetheless, he held on to the second would tell them how risky it was. Might have made money if they had built a ship entirely out of recyclable materials, possibly survived the attack of the present. 25 seconds of Alliance tech. Jack leaned forward to get everything. Ways to get the best performance on my mark, starting with their way of talking to each other and I want to turn off the ship's engines. Jack sank deep 30 seconds later. Ambition marked, the Phoenix sprang to life. As it pulsed with power, its networks, quickly moving in on the people who don't know what's going on. Surprisingly, on the coalition ship, got to the top when the adversary, as soon as their sensors picked them up, they were all ready. As they quickly close in, they are making their defenses stronger. Tom said they are aiming to portray Tom says they are trying to send a mining laser sent beams toward a one-of-a-kind purple and white color when they cut. They hit the coalition from orbit. At first, the communication systems on ships work like planned. The effect was obvious right away and showy instead of being distracted by the opponent fights the odd. Their souls raced through them like they didn't come during. An array of communications blew apart. The views metal and energy flutter. Jack noticed the coalition ship on his computer, pivoting in search of weapon deployment toward deal with this threat that they didn't see coming. Tom complained at the return of fire and energy beams. Left the coalition's ship, hitting the temporary Phoenix hull. The ship shook, but it stayed whole. Tom's shields were still at 82%. The way their targeting algorithms work, having difficulties locking our door at the same time as Anna had said, the patchwork hull tricked the enemy's sensors. The accuracy of the shot went down as the computers had a hard time making up for the loss. Jack shot at their cars. The lasers on the Phoenix turned on when they were ready, again lowering the ship of the coalitions. There was another engine part that, when the attacking ship started to drifting, its major source of power stopped working. Commander Tom said they can't move. Caught up in the excitement of his speech, they may get from a broken piece of pressing alert, but our systems for intervention. Jack agreed that it spoiled most of it. He comes to us with a lovely smile. Get the boarding teams ready. I need their information. Basics of charts for navigation. A few minutes later, the boarding party came back with a lot of priceless knowledge the coalition forces crew had scared throughout their own vacation, prompted by the surprise attack to make a huge deal. Things you have to deal with, my dear Lisa. Offered Jack a data tablet and said, we cut down on their patrols and rules for talking to each other. Also, most importantly, we now know about their conflict. Jack looked over his options and data expression growing worse, showed a lot of coalition ships getting together right outside the colony's edge. They were getting ready for a big offensive, a last push at Earth. The time he asked about, which was around 3 weeks. Lisa replied, they're calling it their closing salve. They believe. As he glanced at the sky, Jack looked up. His teammates, their faces showing a fear, worry, and decide. The Phoenix had showed, is going through its first battle test, yet there is, even a little wind couldn't save. The transmission of an important message by humanity. He told Fleet to tell them our new understanding and tell them that he took a quick look at the coalition that was broken. Show them how to use the view screen. Phoenix's next move is to enter the fight as Jack, on the other hand, stayed at a place where you can observe the night sky. Phoenix drew first blood. Make a spaceship that seems like it can't be built with simply by using will and scrap, a technologically better enemy ship. It was more than just a win. It showed. We still had an opportunity to. Tom asked Jack for instructions, and Jack moved. He gazed down to see the bridges return. Show the Sol system the right way to go. Peak speed. It's time to show now. The real skills of rats in a group setting. The Phoenix's propellers started to turn around the corner. Living beings probing the puzzle boat, moving forward into the empty void and nearing the worst war in history for people. Everyone had to go through the voyage to Sol. It took 8 days for the system to finish. Getting ready, calibrating the gun, and crew battle drills that will take 8 days to finish. Be ready for anything that might happen. The Phoenix, the last stand of mankind. Compared to one scout, it was good. Ship. But shortly it would run into a full fleet Jack mostly. A memory of those days on the bridge or in room for obtaining intelligence observations. From what they could see, the Alliance was carrying a lot of big support ships, cruisers, and destroyers. Earth could only send 17 soldiers to fight them. Ships, most of which were damaged in previous fights, and quickly changed the odds, saying they aren't good while finally facing her with their plan. Even if the view screen looks ancient, insistent that despite the Phoenix, we will roughly 2 to 1 more than them. Jack asked, aren't all things taken into account? Isn't everything taken into account? When Phoenix hits, they are full of surprises. Forecast, And if we can have them do what we want, adjust their plans, because we came, instead of fulfilling their standard, ways we could make the way clear for the Admiral gave a modest nod over the fleet. We are putting our faith in the Phoenix's ability to put yourself in the moment. When the coalition shows up, it's your job to mess up their setup and confuse the rest of all of the ships in the fleet will follow you when you... Jack looked for Tom after the meeting, and Anna is excitedly waiting for him in the hallway. Tom was anxious when he questioned, "Who is on the crew?" Understood, but they are willing to believe this. Anna nodded, and it was evident that she was sure. The latest few changes have been made to the systems for weapons. Mining lasers are now... Power went boosted by 15% and got better to the use of targeting algorithms to make up for... Jack smiled at Coalition's out-of-the-box ideas.